Do you know who it is you're talking to on your blog? Have you ever sat down and actually figured out your messaging, who you are talking to when you're on Instagram, when you're on your blog and you're writing these recipes? If not, I want you to listen to today's episode because I am joined by my friend Lizzie from Wild Feather Co. And she is a specialist at Instagram and Instagram messaging specifically. So if you've ever kind of wondered, maybe I need to tweak my messaging, maybe I've never really taken time to unpack what it is in my messaging that sets me apart from the competition, then this episode is for you. Welcome to the Food Bloggers Table. Pull up a chair for authentic conversations and actionable advice from fellow food bloggers and industry experts. I'm your host, Jen, and I create custom food blogs designed to earn top-tier ad income. Join us now at the table as we break bread and build brands. Let's talk about why messaging matters on Instagram. Why does messaging matter? Does a person have a message? Is food blogging a message in itself? What is it about messaging that is important for Instagram?
Okay, here's what I think is most important for anybody who has anything to share on Instagram. Messaging is about your customer. The better you know them, the better you can speak to them, and the better your content will resonate with them. Because the goal is that the potential client or customer or listener sees themselves reflected in your content. That's always the priority because that's how you build a community. That's how you build a following of people that are really faithful to you and ultimately make some kind of transactional relationship with you.
If someone's saying, I don't really know what my message is, I make recipes, where do I start creating a message?
Okay, this is great. Let's pretend you're one of the sourdough girlies. Sourdough is time consuming. So you are looking for people who value the time it takes and create space around that. You are looking for people who like all the recipes that usually come around that. So maybe canned jams and jellies and soups, people who maybe have a little bit of a sustainability mindset because you don't want that discard to go to waste. You're speaking to probably a woman who either works part-time or is a stay-at-home mom, somebody who gets to be a little bit more of a homebody and enjoys probably slower living in some way or another, whatever that looks like for them. But the better you get to know the person on the other end, the better you can speak to them.
Absolutely. Because if you're trying to draw in a crowd that is 30-minute or less meals, the last thing you want to focus on is a whole sourdough product line because you're not going to be attracting the same individuals who are like, I have literally 3 minutes in my day to make dinner every day. That person at this stage in this season of their life does not have time because it is a very time consuming process. So understanding who you're speaking to and what that person needs and wants is going to help you make business decisions about where you should grow in your business. Should I get on board with the sourdough trend? What would you say to someone who has a recipe blog and they're like, maybe this is a direction I need to go with my business?
Okay, somebody already known for a certain niche and they want to pivot a little bit or at least just start experimenting. I would say if you're the person who does like 30-minute meals, let's pretend that's your thing and you're curious about, does anybody in my audience want to hear me talk about sourdough? Here's what I would do. Experiment with it on your own in real life. Maybe just do a series of stories through the start to finish process. Are you making your own starter or are you getting some from a friend? If you're getting some from a friend, talk about that friend and tie that in. If you are making your own, people want the juicy details. What a riveting process it is in the days leading up to it. If you're making your own starter, you're probably going to name that starter. So let your audience like help you name it and bring them along for the ride, for the experiment. See what kind of a response you get. You'll probably get comments or DMs saying, oh my gosh, that looks so good. I just don't have time. You'll hear people like, oh my gosh, this would go so good with your 30-minute soup recipe. So just experiment with it, see how it goes. Take a step back after the whole thing's done, after you borrowed your grandma's Dutch oven and made like all the beautiful pictures and everything.
Yes.
Do the ASMR with the crunch and then take a step back after you've done all that and just reflect and think about, is this a good fit? At the end of the day, the purpose of your messaging is developing your know, like, and trust. So you're experimenting with, is my audience curious about sourdough? In that process of sharing with them from the starter to the finished loaf. Did they get to know you better? Did they perhaps get to like you a little bit better? And did it deepen their trust in you as an expert in whatever niche you are as a food blogger?
Circling back completely to the messaging question, why does it matter? Because it goes back to the know, like, and trust. And I think too, people appreciate authenticity. And if you're typically the 30-minute meal person and you're like, okay, look, I'm jumping on the sourdough trend, and it is a flop, I almost think that causes me to like that person even better because now I know why you're my 30-minute meal girl. You're like me. It's a train wreck with the sourdough. Whether it goes well or goes poorly, there's going to be people from your audience that connect with that.
Because they can see themselves reflected in your
Exactly.
content.
Exactly. What types of questions could a person, if they said, maybe I need to go back to the drawing board here because I don't feel like I've really dialed it in, where would you suggest to them to get the ball rolling?
When I'm working with clients on messaging, we go through a whole checklist of getting to know the ideal client, making sure I understand who they think their ideal client is and going
Mhm.
from there. But I think for somebody like a food blogger who's unsure of where to start, grab a notebook or your notes app or whatever. Start jotting down all of the things you are good at within food blogging, cooking, recipes, all the things you're good at, all of the things that bring you joy, all of the things you already know resonate with your audience, and comb through that and find the three things you can speak best about, three things that you are an expert in. So maybe you're pretty heavy on affiliate sales. Maybe one of them is kitchen gadgets and speaking heavily into that. Maybe one is you have a really good system for how to write recipes.
Mhm.
And maybe the third one is photography. Like you really love the photo aspect of it. And so maybe those are your three content pillars moving forward. Like I said, make a list of the things that you are really good at and bring you joy and find a way to divide them into three groups. And that has become your content pillars.
How does a food blogger create content that actually gets seen on Instagram?
So the first thing you want to make sure is that your messaging is really solid. So you know your ideal client, you know what they're looking for, you know from experience what resonates the most, and you know what you enjoy talking about the most. So I would say you are going to lean into three content pillars. So if you didn't tune into the last episode before we talk about content, if you haven't nailed down any messaging, I want you to make a list of all of the things that you are really good at that bring you joy, the things you like to talk about on your social media platforms. And I want you to narrow it down to the three main groups that those things fall into. For example, you're a food blogger and you do a lot of affiliate sales. So one of those content pillars is absolutely kitchen gadgets, stuff that you can always have a link for. Maybe one is recipe writing and the other one is photography. So everything that you love to talk about or showcase on your account going to fall into those three categories. Let's say it's Monday and you're like, great, I have to post something this week. What am I doing? You're going to lean onto those three content pillars. So if you have no ideas, you can do one post this week that is an affiliate for a kitchen gadget. Maybe it's a Dutch oven or something cool like that. You're going to do a piece of content that is the perfect flat lay of the salad you just put together. And you're going to get people loving how enticing it is. Get them hooked on it. The next post is the one where you spill the recipe or you tease the ingredients. And if you want the full recipe, you have to subscribe and get into your funnel, go to the link in bio or use ManyChat.
And I think having that content plan, sometimes people can get that far. They're like, okay, I know I've heard content plan. Maybe I haven't ever created one, but I've heard the idea. Okay, so now that I have a content plan, how does that look in action? I know you gave us an example of how
Mhm.
you could tease it out and stretch it out, but
Yeah.
how does that really look?
Sure. So for your affiliate sales, here's how you're going to milk that one post for the day. A kitchen gadget. Oh, it's a salad spinner and you really love it. So you are going to put together a reel where maybe you are going to go out to your garden. You are going to harvest some spinach, some arugula, some lettuce. You are going to come in the house. You're going to wash, like you're showing your audience all of this in cute, tiny little 2-second clips. You're going to wash the lettuce. You're going to be patting it dry with a really pretty little towel. And then you're going to put it in the salad spinner and you're going to spin it slowly and it's going to be slow mo. And they're going to be like, oh my gosh, why don't I have this? And then you are going to show how easy it is to clean it and you're going to put it in your drying rack. And salad spinners are big. So you're going to make it look as easy to store as possible. And you're going to make your audience see themselves using it. So irresistibly, they are going to go add to cart. So that's your post on Monday. Then on Tuesday, you are going to have like really pretty, showy pictures of the salad. And then maybe you have a reel that goes with it, is just like slow mo and it's splashy. And they're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to make this for lunch tomorrow. What's the recipe? And you just tease the ingredients in the video. Then on Friday, that's when you talk about, oh, this is what inspired me for this recipe. We have extra cherry tomatoes in the garden right now, or whatever. And then here's some of the ingredients I used to get the full recipe. Comment tomato below, or just send people to your link in bio. Either way, that's how I would stretch it out over the course of the week. But then you really want to get the most shelf life you can out of this content. So maybe you're sharing that post to your stories and you're saying, just dropped, this is live now. You're going to have some behind the scenes pictures that you took. You're going to ask them a survey question. You are going to let your audience feel as engaged as possible. But you also, like I said before, you want this to be almost aspirational. You want them to feel like this is super possible, that whatever you're promoting fits perfectly into their life immediately, today, right now. You want it to be irresistible, especially with affiliate sales. But most of all, you want all of this to be so laser focused for your audience that they feel like you made this content just for them in a non-creepy way, that they resonate with it immediately because they already know, like, and trust you. This content just further deepens that know, like, and trust.
So, what about somebody that says, that sounds awesome? I could see that, but also I don't have very much time. How would someone go about creating not just a content plan, but a plan to leverage those platforms to the best of our abilities?
Okay, this is one of my favorite topics. You want to be using and leveraging Instagram, but it's not where you want to hang out. As we know, everything, no matter what, needs to circle back to your website because that is what you can control, no matter what's happening with social media, updates, crashes, monetization, whatever. So, a lot of people teach something called pillar piece of content or a singular piece of content on your website that you can chunk out and repurpose. This is something that my team and I have done for clients for years. So this is my zone of genius. So here's how I would do it. Let's go back to the example of the salad. So you write a blog about a salad. You have all the links and all the stuff. That is what you're going to use to break up into all the other pieces of content. Honest moment. I'm an Instagram content specialist. I hate making reels. So if reels are not for you because they're so time consuming and you want to just post and ghost, you just want to get the content, put it on your Instagram and get the heck out of there.
Yep.
You are going to have like your pillar piece of content is that one blog about that one salad recipe. And then you are going to take snippets of that blog, you're going to chunk them out into the captions for your Instagram post, or you're going to chunk it out for carousel post with pictures of the salad behind it. That is, I think, the quick and dirty way to get the word out about what your latest recipe is or like your latest blog.
There's about 10 million social media platforms, and you feel like you have to be everywhere at all times, and you can't be. So you are going, all right, I could narrow it down to Instagram and maybe I'll do Pinterest. But yet again, you have to have the content on your blog because that's where you're most likely making your money. The main thing is creating good quality content that people want to consume, read, and try as a recipe. So we want to use Instagram to get people over there. If you post and ghost, that's better than no post at all. And then also, I would even say, if you find that this is not your wheelhouse, this is an optimal time to look into hiring a VA or hiring someone to do it for you.
I have seen an overwhelming need. People have a VA or people are using AI to help create their content. I am coming alongside people. I'm holding their hand in a really wonderful way to coach them through their messaging, their content, and systemizing it. I call it the content clarity mentorship, but I have a whole whole suite of products and courses and stuff that are all content clarity this, content clarity that, because it's what we all need and it feels super evergreen. It wonderfully meets people exactly where they're at. It's super down to earth. So the three things I focus on are messaging, content, and systems. And so I get to coach clients through the whole process. Most of the time, clients are wanting to pivot. We look at where they have been, what they've been doing, what's been working and not working, and then moving towards who's your new ideal client? What's the new niche? What's the new direction? Who do you actually want to be speaking to?
Mhm.
And then we like dive really deep. This gets really meticulous, but in a wonderful way. It feels like
Mhm.
you're building a relationship with somebody that you've never met, but you're really excited to meet. And so we hammer this home, really nailing the messaging, because if you don't know who you're talking to and how you're talking to them in a way that makes sense to them, then there's no point in us working on content yet. And if there's no content, we have no system. So there's no reason to systematize it. So messaging is a big foundational piece of what we're doing. For years, our specialty has been evergreen content repurposing and creation. And so I handhold the client through using that messaging. We always start with old stuff. How can we repurpose it and sprinkle in messaging for your ideal client that's thoughtful and meaningful, but still makes good use of your old content? And then we sprinkle in new content that is focused on your new niche. I keep it so down to earth and so user friendly. That is the overarching purpose behind the content clarity mentorship.
Thanks so much for tuning in to the Food Bloggers Table. I'm your host, Jennifer Holt, and I look forward to serving you in the next episode.